right, welcome back. Year two, week two, pick sixes and power moves. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back to another DNS address. Week two delivered ranked road wins, user versus user destruction, 1 point survival, and enough pick sixes to make quarterbacks consider a career in coaching. Troy walked into the top 10 road environment and left with a statement victory. Old Dominion welcomed Texas State into the defending champs' house, then forgot to actually welcome them. Georgia Tech dropped 55 points at Tennessee. Mississippi State survived Army by 1, and Georgia Southern with 2 minutes away from tying number 11 Kansas State. Until one decision changed everything. Week two had heroes, it had heartbreak, it had defensive backs treating intercepted passes like DoorDash orders. Let's get into it. Our headline of the week is that Troy knocks off number 7 team in the country. Troy entered week two at 1-1. The Trojans already faced number 18 Alabama. They had already responded with a dominant user victory over Arkansas State. Now they're walking into another top 10 road test. Troy wins 31-21. Ridge Waldrop completes 16 for 33 passes for 157 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also threw 2 interceptions, so that wasn't a perfect afternoon. But Troy did not need perfect. The Trojans needed physical. Gavin Griffin ran 17 times for 129 yards and a touchdown. Roche added 122 yards and another score on 26 carries. That's 251 rushing for Troy's top 2 backs. Again, apparently Troy's offensive philosophy is simple. Throw the ball when necessary, run the ball until the defense files a formal complaint. Jywon Boyd, though, did catch 8 passes for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. His performance earned him the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Week. Troy controlled the ground game. They created enough explosive plays and destroyed the number 7 team in the country on the road. The Trojans improved to 2-1, enter the bye week with one of the biggest wins produced by DNS programs this season. Coach Burnett, this is how you respond after an opening loss. Thank you for taking down Miami. Old Dominion defends the castle. Texas State traveled to Old Dominion for a second user matchup of week 2. The defending Sun Belt champions were making their year 2 debut. Old Dominion wins 55-7. That's not a welcome back game. That is a home inspection. Ricky Burns completed all 11 of his passes, 11 attempts, 11 completions, 223 yards, 2 touchdowns, no incompletions. We love to see that. The football never touched the ground unless Old Dominion intended to hand it to somebody. Charles Jackson rushed for 9 times for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. Valerio added 104 yards, 3 more scores on only 8 carries. These 2 backs combined for 248, 5 touchdowns on 17 attempts. Texas State's defense spent the afternoon chasing running backs who apparently had somewhere else to be. Sherman caught 3 passes for 123 and a touchdown. On defense, Leaks recorded 17 tackles. Ramey added 8 tackles and included an interception, 60 yards returned for the touchdown. That earned him the Sun Belt Defensive Player of the Week. Troy's quarterback, Rissing, showed improvement with 6 interception disaster against Texas A&M. He threw 187, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Jameson Hurt added 2 more interceptions. So the quarterback room reduced the total picks from 6 to 3. Progress, technically. Cole Pryor rushed for 92 yards. Stimmy caught 7 passes for 109, but Texas State could not stop Old Dominion in any phase. The Monarchs open year 2 1-0. Texas State falls to 0-2. Old Dominion travels to Central Michigan next week for another user matchup. Texas State travels to Minnesota because apparently the schedule looked at the team coming off a 48-point loss and said, you know what would help? A road trip to the Big Ten. Arkansas State gets its first win. Arkansas State entered week 2 0-2. Northern Illinois entered still searching for its first win. Somebody has to leave happy. Arkansas State wins 31-22. The Red Wolves used both quarterbacks efficiently. Ryan Rivers completed 14 of 19 passes for 191 and a touchdown. Owen Blunt had 118 and another score. D.D. Murray rushed for 76 yards on a touchdown. Hatchett caught 9 for 86 and 2 scores. Little added 9 for 68. And the real story was Arkansas State's defense. Evan Brown recorded 8 tackles and returned an interception, 75 yards for a touchdown. Noah Hamlin added 8 tackles and 2 more interceptions. Northern Illinois quarterback Brown threw for 203 and 2 touchdowns, and also threw 5 interceptions. That's right, 5. At this point, Arkansas State secondary was not playing defense. They were running routes. Northern Illinois did receive a 89-yard kickoff return from Johnny Tongues. Callahan recorded 12 tackles, a great game for him. Childers and Swaney also recorded double-digit tackles at 10. And 5 interceptions erased too much of the good work. Arkansas State earned its first win of year 2 and enters a bye. Northern Illinois falls again and travels to Missouri State next week. The Huskies' offensive plan should begin with one simple objective: complete more passes to Northern Illinois than to the opposing defense. We'll see. Georgia Tech runs through Tennessee. Number 24, Georgia Tech opened the season on the road at Tennessee. The Yellow Jackets did not ease into year 2. Georgia Tech wins 55-28. Quincy Klutz completes 20 of 28 passes for 244 and 2 touchdowns. He also added 53 yards on the ground. Chad Alexander added 105 yards and a score on only 7 carries. Kerma added 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sharp caught 7 passes and 2 scores. Georgia Tech's defense also added another touchdown when Jalen returned an interception, 56 yards. Trey Dent led the defense with 11 tackles and a sack. C.J. McBean and Manning also added 10 tackles. Georgia Tech didn't simply win on the road. The Yellow Jackets were able to score 55 points against an SEC opponent. They ran the football. They threw it efficiently. They created a defensive touchdown. They made Tennessee look like it was a team playing its first game. Georgia Tech opens the year 1-0 and faces Pittsburgh next week. The Sun Bowl momentum appears to have survived the offseason. We love to see it. Mississippi State survives Army. Mississippi State traveled to Army after losing this opener by 1 point. Apparently, the Bulldogs decided they enjoyed stressful situations. Mississippi State wins 24-23. Coolidge threw for 194 and 2 touchdowns. He also threw an interception and lost a fumble. PhD carried the ball 28 times for 170 yards and a touchdown. He did not need a dissertation. He just kept running. Marcus Johnson caught 6 passes for 107 and a touchdown. Jalen Smith led the defense with 11 tackles, 4 of them for loss. McLaughlin connected on 2 of 3 field goals, including 1 from 51 yards. We love to see it. 1 point separated Mississippi State from another painful loss. This time, the Bulldogs finished on the right side of it. Mississippi State improves to 1-1 and faces number 21 South Florida next week. This game may require more than survival. It will require the best performance of year 2 from the Bulldogs. One throw changes everything. Georgia Southern hosted number 11 Kansas State. In a major early season test, the Eagles fought for 4 quarters. They moved the football. They gave themselves an opportunity. Kansas State wins 35-28. Weston Bryan completed 26 of 31 passes for 286 and a touchdown. Woodgett produced 139 total yards. Todd rushed for 73. JJ scored 2. Gregory caught 7 for 81. Taylor added 7 for a touchdown. Georgia Southern was driving late. 2 minutes left in the game. A chance to tie it. And then disaster. Bryan forced a pass that Kansas State safety Coy Beasley intercepted and returned 92 yards for a touchdown. Basically game over after that. Beasley did earn Big 12's Defensive Player of the Week for that play. And Coach Bennett earned a film chip. He'll now show quarterbacks for the next 15 years. Sometimes the correct read is aggressive. Sometimes the correct read is checking the ball down. And sometimes the correct read is please do not literally throw anything that will result in a 92-yard pick six. Georgia Southern falls to 1-1. The Eagles host number 14 Louisville next week. There's no time to mourn the missed opportunity. Another ranked opponent is already coming. Our pick six season continues, though. Central Michigan. Michigan State defeats Central Michigan 38-16. Snead threw for 219 and a touchdown. Sheets added 71 passing yards. Von Blue once again became the center of the offense. 17 receptions, 111 yards. Blue also had 33 carries, or now has 33, Blue has 33 catches through 2 games. At this pace, he's going to need his own section of the playbook titled Just Throw It to Vaughn. But Central Michigan threw 2 picks. One was returned 73 yards for a touchdown by Michigan State's linebacker, Jaden Mayfield. Another week, another opposing defense touchdown. Central Michigan falls to 0-2 and host Old Dominion next week in a user matchup. Sacramento State falls to South Dakota State 37-14. McKinney threw 3 picks. Babcock threw 4. That's 7 total interceptions. I say again, 7 total interceptions. North Dakota State defensive tackle Xavier, I'm going to go with Akpuna, even joined in on the fun with a 46-yard pick six. A defensive tackle, 46-yard pick six. When that happens, it may be time to close the passing portion of the playbook. We move to Ramey, who provided a major bright side with 76 rushing yards and a touchdown on only 3 carries. Godley added 50 yards. Brown contributed 72 total yards. But 7 interceptions buried Sacramento State's chances. The Hornets fall to 1-1. They travel to Hawaii next week. Hopefully the airline has a strict limit on checked turnovers. Our stock-ups this week are Troy with a road victory over number 7 team in the country. That would be Miami they beat. 2 elite running backs. Another major performance from Jywon Boyd. Troy's officially back in the national conversation. We love to see it. Old Dominion hanging 55. Perfect quarterback play. 5 rushing touchdowns. A defensive score. A defending Sun Belt championship looked extremely comfortable. Georgia Tech 55 at Tennessee. The Yellow Jackets open year 2 with a complete road performance. And Mississippi State, after losing by 1, the Bulldogs won by 1. That's called emotional growth. The Need More Film of the Week, Northern Illinois' passing game, 5 interceptions in 1 game, 9 through 2 weeks. The opposing secondary should not be your primary receiving unit. Sacramento State's quarterbacks, 7 interceptions. That was no joke required. The number is really doing the work. And Texas State's defense, Old Dominion completed every pass and rushed for 250 with 2 players. That film session may require snacks, tissues, and several intermissions. Our Week 2 awards, our Offensive Player of the Week is Jywon Boyd from Troy, 8 receptions, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns, Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Week, and a major performance on a top 10 road victory. Our Defensive Player of the game is strong safety Ryan Ramey from Old Dominion. He had 8 tackles, a 60-yard pick 6, Sun Belt's Defensive Player of the Week, and a major role in a 48-point user victory. Our built but not given award this week goes to Troy. Troy up in year 2 with a loss against number 18 Alabama. The Trojans could have allowed that result to define the season. Instead, they dominated Arkansas State, then traveled into another top 10 environment, ran for more than 250, and earned one of the biggest victories in DNS history. No excuse, no fear, no backing away from the schedule. That victory was built. It was not given. Our Week 3 user matchups, Old Dominion at Central Michigan. Old Dominion enters after a 55-7 victory. Central Michigan enters 0-2. The Monarchs are coming off a perfect passing performance and a dominant running display. The Chippewas may have one of the most productive receiving backs in the country, but continue allowing turnovers to become defensive touchdowns. Can Central Michigan stabilize its quarterback play? Can Old Dominion continue defending its Sun Belt Championship standard outside the conference? Coach Nelson needs his first victory. Coach Crow wants another user win. The pressure is clearly on Central Michigan. Our Week 3 spotlights, number 14, Louisville at Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern at Louisville. Georgia Southern came into one late mistake of potentially forcing overtime against number 11 Kansas State. Now the Eagles received another ranked opponent. South Florida already showed that Louisville can be forced into a shootout. Georgia Southern must finish drives, protect the football, and avoid gifting the Cardinals points. Mississippi State versus number 21, South Florida. Mississippi State survived Army. South Florida returned from its bye after scoring 49 points in a loss. The Bulldogs must control the clock with PhD. The Bulls will want to turn that into another track meet. Georgia Tech versus Pitt. Georgia Tech scored 55 at Tennessee. Now the Yellow Jackets return home, looking to looking to prove that performance was not a 1 week explosion. Northern Illinois travels to Missouri State. Texas State travels to Minnesota. Sacramento State travels to Hawaii. Arkansas State and Troy are on a bye this week. The commissioners picks Old Dominion's going to defeat Central Michigan in a much closer game than the Texas State matchup. Georgia Southern responds from heartbreak and knocks off number 14 Louisville. South Florida's offense proves too explosive for Mississippi State. Georgia Tech continues a strong start against Pitt. Northern Illinois finally reduces the interception and earns its first win? Question mark. Texas State plays better at Minnesota, which is a low bar after losing by 48. Sorry. And Sacramento State protects the football enough to compete at Hawaii. Again, protect the football is less of a prediction and more of a league-wide request. Everybody's got to do it. Week 2 gave us the power, moves, and picks sixes. Troy knocked off the number 7 team in the country. Old Dominion dominated the first game of its title defense. Georgia Tech scored 55 at Tennessee. Arkansas State earned its first victory. Mississippi State survived by 1. Georgia Southern learned how quickly one decision can change a game. And Sacramento State and Northern Illinois continue providing opposing defensive backs with excellent statistical opportunities. Next week brings another user matchup, another rank test for Georgia Southern, and South Florida returns against Mississippi State. Build on the win, respond to the loss, check the jersey color, and when the game is on the line, please don't throw a 92-yard pick six. In the Department of Natural Selection, you select, we collect, built, not given.